and I'm trying something different this time. We're right in the middle of eclipse season as I'm recording this, and you'd almost think the eclipse was affecting my sun. I have a Leo sun, and the eclipse was pulling on it. And I've also been having some YouTube coaching, and one thing that keeps coming up is that I'm not on camera very much. I tend to hide behind charts, and I will be pulling up some charts and some graphics for you, but I'm also going to try and be on camera more and to meet you, I suppose, in person and to say hello as I deliver this information for you, rather than just recording and sharing the graphics. So hello, I'm Sonia. I'm the host behind Celestia Astrology, and I'm here to talk to you today about the full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So this is an interesting polarity for us. We had 2 weeks ago, we had the introduction to the Aquarius eclipse, which was the new energy that's coming in. And we're still finishing up this Pisces Virgo. So the question I feel you're being asked is, can I let go yet? We're nearly through 2 years of these Pisces Virgo eclipses. So I'm going to dive deeper and tell you more about what's going on. But the eclipse is asking this one burning question of us, which is this structure that you've been perfecting truly sustainable? Or have you been holding it together through discipline or habit alone? When and what can you let go of now? And just sit with these questions. Allow them to linger and see what arises for you. And also observe what's been coming up in this eclipse window. Eclipses aren't times for making big decisions or taking action. They're times to just notice what's coming into your life, what's leaving your life, what new information is showing up for you that you want to take action on, what's being confirmed for you at this time, and what also is leaving that you've got no control of. So I've got an overview of what we're going to cover. I'm going to outline how I can support you through this time of eclipses and more widely with astrology. I'm going to offer you some reflection and ritual suggestions. They're only suggestions. Please feel free to take them and adapt them to suit you. However works for you. You know best how you work with these. I'm going to talk about Virgo, the yin nature of mutable earth. I'm going to talk about the Virgo II moon family and the arc that started in September 2024. We're going to look at the Virgo II decan and how Austin Coppock calls it the hammer and anvil, and also the tarot card that corresponds with this decan, the Nine of Pentacles, if you're familiar with that image. We'll look at T. Susan Chang's poetic verse for this decan, and also, most importantly, the astrological conversation. Where are the planets right now, and what does that mean for us? And then we'll pull it all together. So how can I support you? If this eclipse touches any of your personal placements or angles within 10 to 15 degrees, this eclipse is at 12 on the Virgo Pisces axis. So that means either in Virgo or in Pisces, and also in the other mutable signs. So that's Sagittarius and Gemini. So if you've got any placements within that 10 to 15 degree, then this eclipse is going to be very important for you. And it's going to bring a culmination moment that probably was seeded in September 2024. I offer gatherings, Celestial Circle, where we work with these moon families and we track them. And I offer workbooks and also support and a live gathering once a month where we look ahead at what's coming up. I do the work so you don't have to, so we can work out which moon families are going to actually affect you. You can bring your charts, or I can help you find your charts so that you can work out which moon families you need to pay attention to. And then we can help tease it out, because it's not always obvious exactly what the story is. So we can work out what these storylines are that are operating for you. So we can track when the seed was planted and the timing of when the pressure is building and releasing, when the story reveals its strength. And you can just upgrade your membership on Substack if you want to join us. And I will be opening a membership on my website. I've got a new website that we're building, and that'll launch soon. If you're reassessing your work, your health, your responsibilities, or if you feel like you're coming close to burnout, then this eclipse time may hold significant messages for you and would also benefit from conscious navigation. And I'll guide you through how that might show up. And also the Asterosphere Kairos Collective that I'm part of, we held an Aquarius eclipse workshop, and that was for the new energy coming in Aquarius. But we also covered this Virgo eclipse and touched on how that would operate. And the delineations, which is the interpretation of the meanings, are very similar. because this eclipse is paired with that Aquarius one. So that workshop and the workbook are still available through our Ko-fi shop, and the link will be in the show notes. I offer short pre-recorded astrology readings on the website for £40, as well as a full moon consultation, which will give you up to 3 moon cycles to track. You can choose past, present, future if you want to work to plan a project, or if you want to look back and see how events in your life, significant events, were linked. You can choose where your focus is and how you want to work with them. If you're planning out any sort of significant project that's meaningful to you, we can choose a really good moon cycle for you to plan it through, and let the moon support your progress as well, and really bring what you want to manifest into being. So before we get into the analysis of this eclipse, let's look at taking some time out to pause and reflect and really think about where we are in these celestial cycles and how they operate for us. So on the 3rd of September, a new moon in Virgo at 11 degrees seeded this current moon cycle. So something began then in the Virgo part of your chart, perhaps a refinement, a responsibility, a desire to improve. And now we're reaching a culmination and the illumination of what you seeded then. So you might want to consider these journal prompts and just sit with them, allow them to linger, the same as you did with the burning question, and maybe journal what comes up for you. So what began in September 2024 that's now starting to feel complete or illuminated for you? Where have you become more skilled through repetition? What responsibility are you carrying now that no longer requires your vigilance? And where has discipline strengthened you? And is there anywhere that it has hardened you? And I have a suggestion here for a simple eclipse ritual, but feel free to adapt it in any way you like. And eclipses aren't times for big rituals for bringing energy in, but they are times for reflection. So this is more of a reflection type of ritual. So you might like to sit in meditation, perhaps in front of a lit candle. And when you feel ready, if you can remember, bring to mind your September 2024 intentions, or what was happening for you around that time. Reflect on what was actually beginning, what was seeded for you then, what ideas might have been in your mind, what did you want to start? And see if you can acknowledge 1 or maybe up to 3 areas where your competence has matured since then. And if you can, be specific, because Virgo values this granular data and evidence, specific information. And when you've got that written down, see if you can then identify one obligation, a standard, or a habit that is starting to become unsustainable now, that's starting to grate for you, that's starting to feel that it's no longer aligned with your values. And prepare to see how you could release it deliberately. Sometimes it's not possible because it affects other people, but maybe there's a way, through delegation, through asking for help. Once we start to realize that we need to release it in some way, we can start to think of how that might look for you. So begin that process of how could this release look for you? And you can write that down as an intention on paper that you intend to release this. That's the start of the process. You could release it from your schedule, simply decide that you're not showing up anymore. Obviously, that's more if it's something on you and it's not affecting other people. You could unsubscribe from things, from emails or subscriptions or something. You could cross things out. However it looks for you, depending on what it is. You might like to simplify something that's tangible in your life, such as just deciding you're going to clear out one drawer. Don't start with a whole room or the whole house or apartment, but one drawer. 10 minutes on one workspace, 10 minutes in one part of the kitchen. Start is the thing. Or simplify a physical space. Look to see what's cluttered. Look to see what needs to be put away to find a home. And do that in that ritualized kind of way. If you're doing that as part of this Virgo intention. And then intentionally close the space as well. You might, if you've lit a candle, you blow it out, and that signals the close, or a nod, or simply stating that this is done now. So when we look at the full moon in Virgo, mutable earth, yin, it's a mutable sign and it's ruled by Mercury, the planet of our minds. It's ruling communication, messages, our intellect and our adaptability. I've always noticed that 2 or 3 people can watch the same television show, but we'll all get a different takeaway from it. And that is how our Mercury signs operate, that we're interested in different things. So we pick up those particular messages that are meaningful just to us. Virgo is grounded, practical. It's detail oriented. It wants to know those granular details. And it's focusing on efficiency, precision, and it's pursuing this excellence. And it's unique in the zodiac because it's the domicile and and the exaltation of Mercury. It's the only sign where one planet, it has both. It's both the ruler and the exalted ruler. So Mercury has this double role here, and it's symbolized by this Virgo maiden, and she seeks to refine what already exists, and that's the yin quality of taking something and refining it and improving on it. She's looking to strengthen any weak points, to seek them out and to correct any misalignments which might have been overlooked by others. But this also carries this underlying tension because it's striving for this unattainable perfection, this perfection that we simply can't achieve because we're human, because we are fallible, because we do miss things, because we do have inherent biases that we may not always be aware of. So there's this paradox here of seeking perfection in an imperfect world, by design, by nature. You know, if you look at a flower, you don't seek out the imperfections where it's not perfectly aligned. You look at its beauty and its smell and you just enjoy the things that are beautiful about it, rather than saying, well, this leaf doesn't totally match with this leaf on the other side. It would be better if they were both aligned. You know, you just simply admire it for the things that are beautiful about it. And we need to bring that to some of our own work and our own creations too, to allow the imperfect parts to be what is unique about the things that we've created. Sometimes that imperfection shows. And we're finding that with the AI. I'm hearing that sometimes people are allowing mistakes to stand because it shows that it's a human who's done it rather than AI. But yeah, whenever I've used AI, I find it's full of mistakes. So I'm not quite sure how that works. We're not in Virgo season, we're in Pisces season, which is in the opposite sign. And the seasons are marked by the transition of the sun. So we've got the moon that's in Virgo at the moment. But when we look at Virgo as a season, because that gives us way into what Virgo means, Virgo season arrives at a transitional season. And that's why we talk about the mutable signs. They're double-bodied. They have this transitional nature. They can be two things at once. So there's this moving from one season to the next that's happening. We've got this transition of the weather, but also a transition of its nature. It can have these two natures that are true at once, and it can juggle. And the mutable signs are uniquely good at juggling multiple tasks, more so than the fixed or the cardinals, who tend to have a more laser focus. So when Virgo season arrives, the quality of the light is transitioning as well from the summer season, and we're preparing for the autumn or the fall to arrive. And that's when the sun moves into cardinal Libra. So Virgo is usually a time of harvest when there's decisions to be made and assessments of the quality that's been achieved in the growing season. And decisions have to be made then about any adjustments that need to be made for the following year. And is there enough harvest to last throughout the winter? Will it be good enough? What do we need to pickle or store? Or, all those decisions would have been when we were an agricultural society about how we would last throughout the winter. And of course, we've got science and technology now that means that our food supply is available year round, but it's only a generation or so. Our grandparents would have lived more in this agricultural society where food was seasonal. So we're presently in Pisces season, where the sun in Pisces in the furthest place from Virgo, which means that the sun is completing this journey around the zodiac. It's reflecting on the highs and lows of everything it experienced from Aries round through to Pisces. What went well? Did we achieve everything we might have hoped when we started off from this Aries innocent place? And now we're sort of doing this end of year assessment. We're also awaiting and preparing for the return of the light. Pisces marks the end of the dark part of the year, which is from Libra through to Pisces. And when the sun reaches Aries, we get a reset. So we're also preparing just for that ending. It's wise to use this time to reflect on the dark half of the year that we've just moved through. What did we learn? It's kind of like a hibernation. But what do we learn when we slow down? The lighter half of the year is more outgoing. The days are longer. There's more to be done. But we slow down in the darker half of the year. But it's more a time to go inwards and reflect. So what did we experience in that time when we went inwards? It's like mythology. When Persephone goes to the underworld, what does she learn there that she brings back up when she revisits the earth? So use this time before we're once again blessed with the lighter days and the lengthening days, and we reach the first half of the astrological year. What will you take with you into those lighter days? What are we incubating in the dark that we hope to birth in the spring? And how is this Virgo full moon helping to illuminate this for us. This is the last full moon before that begins to happen, before that transition. So this is an important time to reflect on what's being illuminated for us. So this mutable quality of Virgo adds this element of flexibility and adaptability. It's asking us to adjust our plans and our intentions as we move forward. It encourages us to be meticulous in our efforts, paying attention to these finer details and remain open to change and growth. So Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. Mercury is known for its versatility, its ability to traverse different realms, both physical, intellectual, and esoteric. In mythology, Mercury is known as Hermes. He was a messenger who could travel between the worlds of the gods, the mortal realm, and the underworld. He embodies this power of communication and movement between different states of being. He can cross between portals, between boundaries. And so he's known as the messenger god for this reason. And also Mercury is the planet that travels closest to the Earth after our moon, which is orbiting the Earth rather than the sun. Mercury also retrogrades most frequently, but usually only for 21 days, which is the shortest retrograde period. This means that Mercury meets most regularly with the sun in Cazimi, which is a powerful moment of death and rebirth. So as the ruler of this eclipse, Mercury is setting the agenda. Mercury is currently in Pisces, opposite its home sign of Virgo. It's also retrograde right now. It's just entered the shadow of the beams of the sun, which means it has less strength and power to act on its own agenda. It's kind of like a cosmic timeout, I think. It's like before we had calendars giving us a weekend when we're supposed to rest. It's like the planets already gave us these times to push forward and times to rest and just relax, play. We're not meant to be pushing forward always. And these retrogrades are like the indications of these are the times to slow down. Eclipses are always a time to surrender to these greater forces, to these bigger events that are happening in the sky. And this is especially the case now when the rulers of both of the luminaries, so we've got the moon is ruled by Mercury, who's retrograde, and the sun is in Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is also ruling Mercury. It's in Cancer, and it's also currently retrograde. So that is telling us this isn't a time for us to push forward, to set lots of intentions. It's a time really to be reflective, to review. We use the RE words, but it's also a time of setbacks and delays if we're trying to push forward. There's always a shadow side of every sign. There's a way that it can perform at its best, and we also can see it performing at its worst, and that's easily identifiable. And with Virgo, it's often over-functioning, just trying to reach that unattainable perfection and really being set on doing so. It's taking that attention to detail and turning that criticism inwards, looking to fix what nobody's asked you to fix, just taking that upon yourself. Virgo can be tempted to measure its own worth through its productivity. On the other hand, the mature expression when we see Virgo work really well is when that tension is really well managed, when it shows as sustainable excellence. There's a mastery there with very clear boundaries. That expertise and the mastery of skill over time, the work has been put in to really master the craft, and it doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It just knows, I can do this. I do it well. If you want me to help you with it, I will, but I don't have to prove that. I can just do well because I know my stuff. And when somebody knows their stuff and they have that quiet confidence, it's really inspiring. So at the time of this Virgo full moon eclipse, we're asked to identify what is already well built in our lives, what has been built over time, and then to release what no longer needs our constant maintenance. What have we outgrown now? So when we look at the moon and we look at the moon cycles, we can track these in several different ways. The most immediate is the monthly lunar cycle, and you may have heard of this, and we can observe it and see it in the sky. It spans approximately 28 days, and we have the new moon, which is dark in the sky, so it's hard to see exactly when it is, but the sky goes dark. We can't see the moon at all. And then the moon grows in visibility, so we get a crescent moon, and it grows brighter and brighter and bigger in the sky until we reach the full moon 2 weeks later, and then the moon starts to fade until we get to the next new moon. But there's also a 6-month cycle, which takes us between a new moon in one sign and the subsequent full moon, same sign. So that's when the seeds were planted during the new moon and they come to a fuller fruition. And then beyond these, there's an extended cycle known as the moon family. So now I'm going to start to screen share and bring up the moon family. So here we have the Virgo moon family. So this is a more extended cycle. It was illustrated by astrologer Dietrich Pessin in Lunar Shadows 3. This is an approximately 27-month cycle which unfolds as the moon and the sun progress through a series of phases together. In the same way as we had during the monthly cycle a new moon, a first quarter moon, a full moon, and then a last quarter, but it's over a much longer time period. So the moon is returning to the same place in the sky or in our charts, but the sun is in a totally different place. But they're still forming the same relationship of either a new moon, a first quarter, a full moon, or a last quarter. So you'll see from these dates that on the 3rd of September 24, there was a new moon in this same part of the chart as we are now. And then on the 3rd of June at 12 degrees of Virgo, so again in the same place of the chart, same place in the sky, there was a first quarter moon. So the sun would have moved to form that first quarter, but the moon returned to that Virgo place. And now we're in this full moon. So the sun is now in Pisces, but we're still forming that full moon. And this one is an eclipse. And because it's an eclipse, that makes it even more important. It's like a supercharged times 10 kind of meaning. And that elevates the whole moon family to be much more significant for those people who it's impacting. And it also means there's a likelihood this storyline may run into a second moon family in the same area. So you may find that rather than being just a 27-month story, this actually, instead of being 2.25 years, we're actually looking at a story that goes on for nearly 5 years. So something that started in September 24 is being developed and extends much, much longer because of the moon family involving an eclipse. And then we get to the last quarter on the 1st of December, 2026. So this is the culmination point of this first 2.5 years, and you have the key dates here. These phases mark significant developments in the intentions and themes, and they're often pivot points as well, these dates. The 3rd of June 2025, the 3rd of March 2026, and the 1st of December 2026. So those are the important dates to note if you have placements. And the people it will affect are people with placements approximately 5 degrees before 9 Virgo. So if you have placements from 4 degrees of Virgo to around 14 degrees of Virgo, and the same in Pisces and also Sagittarius or Gemini. But also if you have those similar placements in the earth signs, so that's Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn, it might also matter to you. And also if Mercury is your Lord of the Year or your solar return ascendant. You may need to speak to an astrologer to help you, or you can just comment moon families and I will private message you for your birth details and I can get your chart and tell you if you have placements that will be impacted by this moon family. So a total lunar eclipse, what is it? So the moon and the sun oppose each other in this current supercharged full moon at 12 degrees of Virgo. The moon is conjunct the south node in Virgo and the sun is conjunct the north node in Pisces, and the reflected light of the moon becomes temporarily blocked by the earth as the alignment forms. So you can see this earth in the middle. The moon is the one that's being eclipsed, and it's the light of the sun that's being cut out and blocked by the earth. And we do get this moon getting this beautiful red or orange color. This particular eclipse is going to be visible in Asia, Australia, and North America. And you can find out more about its visibility and what time it will appear on your location at timeanddate.com, and also watch a live stream of the eclipse. So let's talk about the significance of lunar eclipses. Lunar eclipses can be powerful turning points, especially when they impact on natal planets or points in our chart. So if they're not affecting planets or points in your chart, it's less likely that you're going to have significant experiences. We have 4 eclipses a year, so astrologers talk about eclipses a lot. It may not be significant for you if it's not impacting on your chart. You might just continue on as normal and think, what were they talking about? They may bring moments of clarity, revelation, completion, or begin a process which unfolds very slowly. Chris Brennan of the Astrology podcast, who has conducted extensive research on eclipses, tells us that they usher in great beginnings and great endings. A full moon, especially an eclipse one, marks an ending, culmination, or a release. These lunations can be intense, often pushing us towards decisive action, breakthroughs, or necessary closures. However, events can be seemingly insignificant at first and grow into greater endings to create more room for significant beginnings over time. We need that. We need to make that space. As the Earth moves between the Sun and the Moon for the lunar eclipse, they come into this perfect alignment in the sky, casting the Moon into the Earth's shadow. This creates a temporary loss of reflected light for the Moon, a moment where something once visible is obscured, only to return with deeper insight once the shadow passes. Once the light returns, like a bridge being crossed into a new land, you can never go back. You cannot unsee this new land that is different to what you knew before. Something has permanently shifted within you or in your external circumstances. This particular eclipse is on the Virgo Pisces axis, balancing themes of material reality versus the unseen world and practical mastery versus spiritual surrender. What has been maintained quietly reaches a point of reckoning and visibility as we reach this reset. Let's look now at the Saros cycle. So there's a lot of information here. I'm going to walk you through it. Saros cycles are more patterns in the sky, just like the moon family. They help us to see patterns and cycles in our lives and also in mundane events in the collective. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, I've got the dates of the previous eclipses in this Saros series. So we can look back at those dates and again, we can see what was going on for us in those years. So start at 2008. Back to 1990 and even 1972 and 1954 if you were alive then. And we can look further back for historical events. And they can tell us, for like mundane astrologers who look at events in the world, about things that were going on in the world. And those themes we may see re-emerging around this time. We can also look at the 9 years between those dates when there would have been a reversal of the nodes. So the North Node would have been in Virgo rather than Pisces, and the South Node in Pisces rather than Virgo. But the same axis would have been activated. So it would have been slightly different, but also slightly the same. Bernadette Brady, in her book, The Eagle and the Lark, offered us a delineation of this Saros series, which she classified as 10 North. And then NASA, who classified the Saros cycles after she did her pioneering work, they call this Saros cycle 133. And this is event number 27 in that cycle. So they tell us how it has progressed, how many events there's been. So the original aspects of this first eclipse give us clues and information about how events are likely to manifest. They're like the initiating event, same as like when a planet ingresses into a sign. That sets the tone, it sets the stage for subsequent events. So in this first eclipse in this cycle, in the year 944, we saw a new moon conjunct Mercury and Saturn. So she advises us because of that to expect a strong emphasis on communication, news, paperwork, or a young person. We might also expect to feel tired and drained, so make sure you rest. She cautions us to take things easy and to work through things one at a time. Now let's look at the second decan of Virgo. So decans are 10-degree divisions of a sign. So each sign has 30 degrees, and therefore it has 3 decans, the first, second, and third, each taking 10 degrees. So this full moon is occurring in the second decan of Virgo, and it's ruled by Venus and Saturn in the descending order and Trapezity system. The symbolism of this decan gives us more information and deepens our understanding about Virgo's attention to detail and the time investment asked for to refine skill and to transform form. Kira Ryberg calls this decan perfectionism, while Austin Coppock refers to it as hammer and anvil. Here we learn that skill is formed through pressure and repetition. The hammer strikes repeatedly. The anvil is solid, it holds steady, and thus the form becomes durable and is transformed. Austin Coppock writes in his book 36 Phases about the repeating theme of encasement that recurs in the ancient images of this decan. The ongoing shaping and refining of the material is the focus. To this end, the spirit wraps matter around itself, forming an exoskeleton, like the casing of a seed, a suit of armor, or a cocoon. This state fortifies but also conceals the spirit's light. The inherent beauty of spirit is thus disguised, visible only in the clever and gameful manner by which it shapes the world. Here, skill and rigor will intersect, combining the best of beauty, design, and discipline. We find Mercury sharpening technique and refining technical intelligence, while co-rulers Venus refines the form and the aesthetic, and Saturn lends endurance and rigour. In this Wild Way Oracle deck card by Nicola Allen, the decan is called Quality Control, with the keywords perfection of form, eye for detail, and hard-won prosperity to guide us. In the card, we're shown the image of a spider meticulously weaving its web between ears of wheat. The spider's dedication to its craft ensures a unique masterpiece, though its painstaking efforts are often invisible to the outside world. This imagery reminds us that achieving excellence often requires enduring hardship, maintaining discipline, and some sacrifice. As we approach this eclipse, we might consider where in our lives is the pursuit of perfection helpful, and where might it be damaging? How can we balance the desire for quality with the acceptance of imperfection? And this is the tarot card that corresponds with this decan. We see a woman standing in a cultivated garden. She looks self-possessed, independent, surrounded by what has been carefully grown, the grapes on the vine. There is a bird, perhaps a hooded falcon, balanced on her upright, gloved hand. She wears a long flowing robe with what might be astrological symbols on it. They sometimes look a little bit like the Venus glyph, and others look more like flowers. The Nine of Pentacles speaks of earned autonomy, stability, self-sufficiency, refinement, and the fruits of hard work. There is also nuance. Both the garden and the bird need maintenance to be enjoyed. But we do not see the work which has gone into training the bird or maintaining the garden. It represents a moment of achievement where we can enjoy the rewards of our efforts, but it also reminds us of the discipline and perseverance required to reach this point. Also, how our efforts can benefit and sustain others. At this time, the Nine of Pentacles encourages us to look at all we have grown and achieved in our own metaphorical garden. Where have you refined your skill over time? Do you allow yourself to take the time to pause, enjoy the process, and to celebrate the outcomes of your own life, as this decan in verse? Where skill and rigour intersect, jewels free from all defect, I am the loving architect of details only I detect. This may appear a life of ease, but all it is expertise. Virgo II understands that apparent ease is built on repetition and muscle memory. It makes me think of all the beautiful ice skating performances I've just been watching in the Winter Olympics. In my lifetime, I've seen the ice skaters' jumps go from doubles to quads, and the best ones always look effortless. The viewer tenses when they can see the effort. There is a much higher chance then of error and the jump not landing well. And now we come to the astrological conversation. Eclipses are always difficult to predict. We can gain information from the decan, the fact that it's a full moon, the Saros cycle, and also from the relationship that's forming between the planets. So here we've got the moon at 12 degrees of Virgo, and it's directly opposite the sun in Pisces. Virgo seeks clarity, order, and competence. And Pisces moves through a flow of intuition, emotion, and faith. The practical part of you looks to fix, improve, and correct. The soulful part of you wants to soften, forgive, and release control. This may indicate that discernment and the search for perfection face surrender and release of some form. We may need to bring compassion and a reset to our refinements, and keep faith that the Virgo moon is just separated from the South Node. This suggests a release of old Virgo patterns is already in motion. You may have looked at how you have been overfunctioning, or maybe you took on a hyper-responsibility, or you may have held a nervous belief that if you stop managing everything, it will simply fall apart. There are many other ways that the release may show up. The sun in Pisces is also moving away from the North Node. There is movement forward, a pull towards trust, an illuminating of shadows, a reset and culmination of a process that's allowing life to be imperfect, allowing compassion in, and softening your grip. Mercury, retrograde in Pisces, rules this eclipse. The Virgo moon that signifies our emotions, memories, and intuition is guided to turn inwards, reviewing, remembering, and rethinking. This is reflected in the way you may experience it. You may revisit conversations, reassess plans or agreements, reconsider assumptions, or return to things that you had forgotten. Mercury in Pisces is creative and artistic. It communicates in symbolism and memory. Opposite the moon, the sun is joined by Mars in the early degrees of Pisces, exalted Venus in Pisces, and Mercury retrograde. The emotional atmosphere is saturated with this focus of inner planets. Mars adds heat, urgency, conflict, or motivation to act. Venus brings a softening and idealizing, amplifying devotion and tenderness, grace and idealism. Mercury is reflective and looking to past certainties to guide it. Trying to apply logic is unlikely to work right now to something that is fundamentally about feelings. These planets are ruled by Jupiter, also retrograde in Cancer, and forming a supportive whole sign trine to this stellium, which means 3 or more planets in Pisces. Beliefs are being reconsidered. Philosophies and ideals are being reworked. What once made sense may no longer hold in quite the same ways. Soon the Sun will be moving towards a supportive trine to Jupiter in Cancer. Support from both exalted benefics is present. We are likely to find that emotional nourishment will follow from this time. If this eclipse exposes anything raw, a healing salve will follow. Emotional security can expand as something life-giving is forming beneath the surface. Venus is strong in her exaltation as she approaches her peak degree before forming a sextile to Uranus in Taurus, currently moving through Venus's home sign. This may bring a destabilizing shift or a gentle liberation. It could show up as practical improvements that are needed or a small shift in your resources, self-worth and values. So this eclipse asks you to release an old Virgo compulsion while allowing Pisces to teach you trust. It invites you to reconsider what you have been managing and why. It reminds you that building skill and expertise does not require exhaustion. Something is ending, being released, but it's opening a door for something softer and more sustainable to take form. And finally, let's return to the burning question. Is what you have been perfecting truly sustainable, or have you been holding it together through discipline alone? This eclipse is asking you to become honest about the effort you've invested since 2024, honest about the skills you've worked towards and refined, honest about where you are still over-functioning out of habit rather than necessity. With Mercury retrograde ruling this lunation, and Jupiter retrograde ruling the Sun and inner planets, the insight comes from within. The Virgo moon has already travelled past the South Node. You do not need to live in that old version anymore. The Pisces Sun, having touched the North Node, reminds you that the path forward will ask for faith. Virgo II understands that mastery is steady, quiet. It is built through repetition and care. The eclipse will also show you what no longer requires your constant maintenance. Travel well, friends. I hope this eclipse treats you kindly. And if this has resonated for you, please do leave a comment. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.